Deep in the sea lived a school of fish. Among them some Mandarinfish, of whom it is said that they are the most beautiful fish in the world. With their glowing colors, orange, blue, yellow, and green, one could hardly help but watch them admiringly. One day, two of them, Manny and Lulu, discovered a bottle on the ocean floor. Curiously, they looked at the unknown object, for they had never seen anything like it before. Suddenly, they noticed that something was rolled up inside. However, since the two fish did not know exactly what they were holding in their hands, they swam to their grandparents to ask them. Manny's grandmother had traveled across the entire ocean in the past, and had seen as much as no other fish he knew. And indeed, she told the two that some humans put secret messages into such bottles. But to decipher these, they needed someone who could read and write. And not even Manny's grandmother had ever learned to decipher human signs. Instead of listening further, Lulu and Manny were very excited and brainstormed together whom they could ask. Together they set off and asked every single fish that they crossed paths with, but nobody could help them. Then Lulu had an idea. Not far from them lived a few turtles, and they wanted to visit them. The problem was, to get to the turtles, they had to pass through the territory of the sharks, and their parents had warned them over and over again not to set a single fin there. But they couldn't think of anyone else. And so it happened that they cautiously and slowly ventured through the sharks' territory. But when they had almost arrived at the turtles, they noticed a large shadow above them. When they turned around, they actually saw giant teeth and eyes that seemed to stare at them with interest. Lulu was the first to compose herself and spoke to the shark. "We found a secret message and need someone who can read human writing. Have you perhaps learned that?" "Of course," replied the shark. "Come closer. I want to show you how to read. Come very close indeed. Then I won't have to speak so loudly." Suspiciously, the two Mandarinfish began to come closer. But when they were close enough to see the shark's teeth in great detail, and saw a few small colored fins there, which had certainly been other Mandarinfish once, they changed their minds and tried to flee. The shark, however, whose stomach was now starting to growl, hissed after them. Fortunately, they passed between two rocks that the shark was much too big for, and they narrowly escaped the hungry shark. However, in their flight, they had lost their way. They no longer knew where they were. Everything seemed foreign to them, and they had never even seen the other animals before. One of these creatures seemed to have 8 arms and swam very slowly and leisurely in their direction. Since they had no idea where they were and desperately needed help, they spoke to the animal. But instead of answering, the animal suddenly shot away from them, and everything turned black. The two were terribly frightened. They thought their final hour had come. They had surely been eaten and were in the stomach of the shark. But suddenly they heard a giggle. "That octopus really played a trick on you," a voice called out. And as the ink slowly drifted apart, they could see more. They recognized that the voice belonged to a fish that was almost as colorful as they were. A clownfish. Manny's grandmother had told them all about these brave little fish. And when they told him about their secret message, The clownfish was ecstatic. "I know exactly who can help us. By the way, my name is Klex," he cried. So together they swam on, and shortly thereafter reached a coral reef that looked like a real castle. Marveling, the two followed the clownfish, who brought them into a large hall. And there, on a throne, sat a mermaid. And Money and Lulu burst into cheers. "A mermaid, of course! She can surely tell us what is written in the secret message." The mermaid, however, also had to disappoint the little fish. Unfortunately, mermaids, just like fish, did not learn human writing in their schools. Dejected, they set off on the way back. Luckily, Klex at least knew the way to the turtles, and from there they could find the way back home themselves. So the clownfish accompanied the two Mandarinfish as far as the turtles and was just about to say goodbye when an ancient-looking turtle suddenly swam toward them. Lulu summoned her courage and asked him if he could perhaps read human writing, and showed him the message. The turtle pondered long and somberly. "Yes, I can tell you what is written there." The three fish were beside themselves with joy. Finally they would get the answer they had waited for so long. Lulu had suspected that it was a treasure map with instructions on exactly where it was buried. Money thought it was a love letter that a human had written to a mermaid long ago. And Klex suspected it was a manual for building a giant ship. "It is," the turtle began, "a recipe for seaweed soup. And if you want, I can prepare a bit of it for you." Since that day, the four new friends met every week for seaweed soup.